If there's anything I've learned from Texas Chainsaw 3D, it's that smartphones have been around forever. If a cop in present-day 70s could have whipped out a smartphone, then why didn't the lady in this movie take out her phone and call for help? Idiot.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 follows a radio DJ who has just received a phone call from a couple of rowdy teenagers. The call got recorded as those teenagers were being murdered, so she seeks the help of a local sheriff who has been hunting for Leatherface and his crazed family for over a decade. Now, I can't speak for the recent Leatherface prequel, as I never bothered watching it after hearing what turns Leatherface into Leatherface in that movie. It just sounds weak as piss, but out of all the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films I've seen, this is the only one that deviates from the usual storyline. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre basically laid the groundwork for a lot of slasher movies where this group of unfortunate youngins is out driving somewhere in the country, in this case somewhere in Texas, and they happen upon a crazed killer. The grand majority of this series has taken that storyline and repeated it over and over and over again because, that's what people come to see in a sequel. That's why Texas Chainsaw 3D was such a monumental success and an instant classic. I'm sorry, but I really fucking hate that movie. I also like how this sequel has a completely different mood to it. Whereas the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre was pure insanity in a brutal, disturbing sort of way, the second movie is pure insanity in a silly, over-the-top, cartoonish sort of way. Which is funny because there are critics out there who simply view the original as this gory piece of exploitation devoid of class, and the sequel matches that misconception. And that's not to say that this is a stupid movie. It is very aware of the type of movie it is. It has a personality. I mean, the intro scene does a perfect job of telling you what kind of movie you're getting into. It's terrifying and it's gruesome, but it's also hilarious at the same time. Also, it's the best use of Oingo Boingo music I've seen in a movie. The main character of the radio DJ is very intelligent too. She's not just a damsel in distress who spends the entire running time screaming her head off and running away from these people. Once she does encounter Leatherface, she does everything that she can to keep her cool and prevent herself from being killed. The sheriff played by Dennis Hopper is my second favorite character in the movie. He has a connection to some of the characters from the first movie, which makes his vendetta against Leatherface very personal, but at the same time, he's not what I would consider a hero. He's actually a huge asshole, and you learn very quickly that he's just as crazy as the family he's going after, but I just mentioned he's played by Dennis Hopper. If you need someone to play a crazy asshole in your movie, he's the guy to go to. The reason I say the sheriff is my second favorite character in the movie is because this show is completely stolen by Chop Top, played by Bill Moseley. I mean, he is arguably the creepiest character in the movie, yet at the same time, he's the comic relief. I mean, on the one hand, he's the type of person you wouldn't want to be anywhere near. He is the last person you would want to meet in the middle of the woods at night. Yet, at the same time, he is so crazy and silly that you can't help but laugh at him. Some of my favorite moments in the movie are when he's at home just arguing with the cook. There has been some speculation as to whether Chop Top is the hitchhiker from the first movie, but I think it's kind of obvious. He looks the same and he sounds the same, and if you consider the way the hitchhiker ended up at the end of the first movie, it would make sense for him to have a metal plate in his head now. It's kind of like wondering if the killer from Friday the 13th Part 3 with the hockey mask is the same guy who had the bag over his head. I don't know though, the hockey mask did look different. It could have been Jack the Ripper. By the way, if you like to get into slasher movies for the blood and the gore, then this film does have a lot more on-screen violence than the previous film. However, it doesn't go for the same feel of gritty realism. I mean, there's a guy who's able to get up and walk around despite having much of his skin peeled off, and he's able to form complete sentences in spite of having been bashed in the head with a hammer several times. There's also a moment where Leatherface gets impaled through the stomach with a chainsaw and he keeps on fighting, but I mean, it's not that unrealistic. It's Leatherface. Everyone knows his only weakness is having a pipe wrench thrown at his head. Overall, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 isn't exactly high art. It's not as scary as the first movie, but unlike a lot of sequels out there, it does at least try something different. If you're interested in just seeing a fun, gory slasher flick, then this one definitely comes recommended. And that's all I've got to say about the movie. I hope you all have a good one.